It's Hollie's Hotspurs back with another one. Chatting all things Tottenham, we're second to none. Special guests every time, if it's win, lose or draw. The passion is high like Harry Kane when he scores. Or when Lloris makes a world-class save. We got Højbjerg running the mid every game. Settle down, stick around, share your thoughts with the panel. And make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Coys.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollie's Hotspurs Live. I know it's a day late, but it was bank holiday yesterday and I thought we could all use a little break. So that's why I'm back today, but we've refreshed and energised. And with me tonight to obviously talk about that 2-0 win, I am joined by some lovely guests. So first of all, I'd like to welcome James onto the channel, otherwise known as, well, part of Spurs Related. So how are you tonight, James?
All good, all good. Yeah, absolutely buzzing. Another win. Didn't play great as we'll get into things, but yeah, pleasure to be back on here. Maybe I've been on once before. I can't even remember. It's been so long if I have. But yeah, great to have me. Great to be on, and thanks for inviting me.
No, cheers. Thank you for joining me. I think I've been on, once, but I'll look to get you on more times. But no, thank you again for joining me. And also with us, Dara, making a comeback, otherwise known as Spurs Views. How are you tonight, Dara?
Yeah, great. In great form, Hollie, got to say. And yeah, thanks very much for having me back on. Delighted to be here.
Oh, thank you. And before we get into it, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's watching or going to rewatch it or listen on audio. Thank you so much. If you are new, please remember to hit that subscribe button and let's go for it. So obviously, it was a 2-0 win against New Forest. Like James has already said, it wasn't the best of performances, but it was the same starting 11, wasn't it, James? Were you surprised by that, or considering the whole Romero injury news, was that pretty much a given that it's pretty much going to see the same start 11?
I don't want to say I told you so, but I did predict that it would be the same starting 11. However, I guess the only debate was the whole Son, Richarlison, and potentially even the midfield side of things as well. But I think there's probably more question marks about the lineup for tomorrow's game, of course, as we've seen that Son again didn't have a great game. And then, of course, Bentancur, I think, has concussion, so could see a Basuma debut in terms of a debut start. But I wasn't too surprised that we kept it the same. Conte going for the same winning team, although, like we said, it was an incredible win. It's still a win. And yeah, I expected an unchanged team.
No, that is a fair point. And like you say, I think obviously with the Romero injury, we all knew that Sanchez were going to step in again. But Dara, I'm probably Sanchez's biggest critic, to say the least. But he's not done a bad job since he stepped in. I mean, how are you kind of feeling with the whole Sanchez thing?
Yeah, I think Sanchez gets a lot of stick, and most of the time it's understandable, to be fair. Like, he's always liable to make a mistake. He's not as solid on the ball. But I think he's kind of in a tricky place at Spurs, really, because he only ever comes in when there's an injury, and I think he knows that himself. So he's always under pressure to perform when he's in the team. And to be fair, like, I know it just happens to be a coincidence, I think, but the fact we've got 9 hours without conceding with him in the side, I mean, look, that's impressive in itself, but I do think that's just probably a coincidence that he happens to be playing those kind of games. But look, he's done a solid job. In fairness, I can't criticize him for the last 2 games and 2 clean sheets. So yeah, no, he's done quite well. I think actually a lot of the players that have been getting a lot of stick recently have actually done quite well. The likes of Højbjerg and even Emerson. I don't think they're playing badly whatsoever. And in fact, I didn't go as far to say Højbjerg has been one of our better players this season so far. So yeah, it's nice to see the players that, probably are getting the bat on a good few times from the fans, really, playing well and showing that they mean business.
It's true as well. Also, like Sanchez, how many hours is it without conceding a goal now? It's crazy.
Mad. Yeah, it's mad.
5 hours of football, I think it is. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's impressive.
It's bad. And like I say, I'm not his biggest fan, but I think, like you said, Dara, I think he kind of knows that he has to step up when he's asked to play, because that's my only real issue. I don't mind him stepping in now and again, but James, if he was in there for a long stint, say if Romero's injury was prolonged, it was longer, say, I don't know, 6 weeks, would you be worried, or you'd be like, actually, no, this guy's coincidentally managed to last this long without conceding a goal, it's fine?
No, I'd be absolutely terrified. I'm not even going to start lying. I mean, think back to, was it a couple of seasons ago? I think it was under Jose when he got tied in a knot against Man City, and literally it was a meme. He actually ended up falling on his face. I mean, the guy it is a calamity waiting to happen, and I'm surprised we haven't seen a mistake yet. Like, I think similar to you, Hollie, I'm not a big fan of Sanchez, but to be fair, credit where credit's due, he has done a job. But again, look at our opponents. Yeah, he hasn't really been playing in the big games, and that is what would really scare me.
Definitely, I think you're right there. And I know we're talking about defenders, but it's great news today, Darren, because obviously Romero has signed officially for a 5-year contract. So how great does that feel today?
Oh, it's super. I think it was only a matter of time anyway, to be honest. But yeah, I think we heard earlier in the summer that it was going to be done. So it was only a matter of time in announcing this. But yeah, no, it's super news, to be fair. I think getting him when we did, and even convincing Atalanta that, we'll just take him on loan this season and have him for 5 years after that. To be honest, I don't know how Paratici managed that, but that was a serious coup. And we've reaped the benefits already, and I think he's only going to get better. He's unbelievable. He's real Rolls Royce defender, good with the ball, good without the ball. I'd always back him to even track back and get back at a player who's beaten him or whatever. If they manage to beat him, which they normally don't. So no, it's a super signing. And probably one of those that you're still a little bit nervous of. Even the fact that it's not announced, I think you're just still going, is he definitely signed? Or but yeah, no, it's great to have those kind of even 5% chance doubts just gone out of your head, and he's signed for 5 years. It's brilliant. I think that's a rock solid signing. If we could get a couple of others to go in beside him, it'd be great too.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And that's the thing. I think, obviously, lots of people are still talking about this war chest, and I don't want to go into it too much. But, James, obviously, we've secured Romero now. Is there likelihood that maybe next year we get the likes of Bastoni in? As we know, we don't want to see Conte splashing the cash willy-nilly, as we've seen before in Ndombele. So could this be the next step in the puzzle, so to speak?
Do you know what? I trust the transfer business more than I ever have done in my whole lifetime. I mean, Paratici is absolutely cooking, like was just said there. I mean, £42.5 million, I think it was, for Romero. I mean, he's going to be worth double, potentially even triple in a few years. I mean, he's an absolute unit, 23 years old. But in terms of your question about do I expect the big signings next year, I think two factors come into it. One, is Conte going to be here next season? And two, of course, is are we going to make any more signings before the end of the window? It doesn't look like it's going to be a big one, but maybe we get one more centre back in. I'm not too sure. I'm not too confident on that. But I think we are holding out for the likes of a Bastoni, even maybe a Pau Torres, where we spend a bit more money. They weren't quite available this window for a reasonable fee, but maybe next season, contracts running out, maybe we can do some business then.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I think we have to learn from our mistakes. As much as I want us to spend money, I think every Spurs fan wants that. I think we need to do it wisely. And we've done that in the past and it hasn't really worked out with the likes of Ndombele. But anyway, now Romero signed, it's happy days. I want to move back onto the game because, Dara, for once, we actually score early and we actually go out there and do something. So what did you make, obviously, of the Harry Kane scuff, shall we say? It still went in the back of the net, but obviously caught Henderson off guard quite a lot.
Yeah. No, it was good to see us kind of come out of the blocks, because I actually thought even in the first 2 or 3 minutes, I said, geez, we're not really at this. And they were kind of battering us and pressing us and things like that. So I think to get that goal when we did was actually vital. I think had we not got that, I don't think there was too many chances that we had after that, apart from, on the break and things like that. I think Sonny had one flash by the post. He was very unlucky. But yeah, I think it came at a good time because it forced them to really, really press us for the rest of the game, which suited us. Because that counter-attack was lethal all game. And I'm not so sure if they had scored first that they would have kept battering us like they were. So I think to get that first goal really, really made the difference in the game. Because, let's be fair, we weren't really at it against Forest. But I don't think we didn't deserve to win. We did deserve to win, but we weren't playing our fluid football. We weren't doing too many nice little balls over the top. Our passing was a little bit short, looked a little bit lackadaisical at times. So I think to get that in a half-time 1-0 up was brilliant, and I think it made the rest of the game a lot easier for us. The second half seemed like, we're still under pressure, but it seemed a lot easier than the first, where we were kind of getting bombarded a bit and picking off scraps. But yeah, no, fair play to us for coming out of the blocks and getting that first goal, because it had been a while. I can't even remember the last time we scored in the first half, hardly. So it was a nice treat. So long may that continue.
100%. I think that's the thing as well. I think normally we go behind. Obviously, you looked at Southampton, we went behind, and then we decided to do something. So, James, it was like Darren said, it was nice to come out the blocks and actually going for it for once, away from home.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like was just said again, we scored 10, 15 minutes into the game. However, that next 30 minutes was absolutely awful. I was almost ripping stuff off in our living room watching it. I mean, 1-0 up at half time, and I honestly didn't feel like we were winning. We were getting absolutely battered. And I'm surprised Forest didn't score. I think if they had a more experienced striker up front, obviously Brennan Johnson was causing a lot of problems, but maybe finishing wise isn't the strongest striker. So listen, when we come up against the bigger teams, we cannot be doing that. Every single performance in the first half, other than the Southampton game, has been woeful. Let's not get that wrong. But yeah, it was obviously happy to be winning a half in the first half, but second half, obviously, like Dara just said, the first sort of 10 minutes, I was a bit like sort of nervous we were going to get a 1-1 and Forest were going to score, and then you know light dawns on Marblehead. We pay for our mistakes, but at the same time, it was nice to get obviously the second goal and kill off the game.
100%, and I think that's the thing. I think with the likes of Wolves, as we know, they don't have a striker. And with the likes of, obviously, Forest, it seemed that they could have all the possessions, Dara, but they never had that fine killer instinct. I think the only good chance they had was towards the start of the second half, where the ball came in and it was a free header. You'll think if you had someone from the likes of Liverpool, say, or from the likes of City, the likes of Haaland, we wouldn't get away with things like that, would we?
No, not a chance. And I like to think that Conte is setting us up in a certain way, that we play a certain way against certain teams, and then we'll change our tactics for other teams. Because I think especially with the Southampton game, like when we were losing at halftime, we weren't losing at halftime, we went 2-1 up, but at the start of the game, maybe the first half hour before we scored, it seemed like we were going to lose the game because we were useless, like we were terrible. And as James said as well, that's happened in every game, to be honest. So like that has to change, and we won't get away with these kind of moments against the bigger teams, as you said. And yeah, we have probably got lucky with the last two games in the fact that Wolves and Forest just couldn't score. If they were there for another game, I'd say they wouldn't have scored. It's just that they were so poor going forward. But I do think there's been a slice of luck as well, to be honest. Like I think a few times last week, I think it was Núñez got in with a header and it just flashed by the post. Lloris never getting to it. So it's just those fine margins as well that is going our way at the moment. But yeah, something has to change. I think the midfield for me, I just don't think it's working. Højbjerg and Bentancur, I'm a big fan of both of them, but for some reason we're getting overrun in every game. I think teams have us figured out. It's 2 versus 3 most of the time. They're getting overrun. They don't know whether to go or stick. So I think something has to change there. That's up to Conte now, but I don't really have a solution because I'm kind of in between minds about it. But like, I think Basuma deserves a go at the very least, and I think he will get a go tomorrow. But we'll get onto that or whatever. But yeah. So I think you're dead right in saying, yeah, we need to up our game big time if we're going to be competing with the big boys.
Just quickly, can I just add, like, I think there is spot on about the midfield, because I mentioned this on Irish Hotspur last week, and I got shut down saying, they were saying it was the defence, like we don't look calm coming out of defence, which I agree with to an extent. But the midfield, Bentancur and Højbjerg are both great players, but they're not really the balance we need in midfield in these type of games. We either need a 3 in midfield or we need 2 midfielders in Basuma and Højbjerg, because they're both workhorses. Basuma gets forward a little bit more and it's a bit more of a balance. Bentancur and Højbjerg, I don't know what it is. It doesn't quite 100% work in these games. So I would change it up. And I think more fans are starting to agree with this theory that Dara and myself are thinking, in terms of maybe let's play Basuma and Højbjerg and see how that works. Because I think we'll just dominate midfields much better.
No, I think you're right. And that is true. I think we've been overrun. I wouldn't say all the games, because I think Southampton was obviously, it was the first game, we looked very comfortable. But other than that, like you say, teams just seem to bypass our midfield. And it's not for the want of Højbjerg and Bentancur not putting the runs in or not putting the effort in. I just don't think it necessarily works, because I think both of them are very much the same. And that does not annoy me, but it's like, come on, we need to switch it up because we're just getting found out every time. Exactly. But we'll get on to obviously the other game, the games coming up a little later on, because we will talk about obviously where we're going to switch it up. But I want to go back to obviously the Forest game, James. I'll come to you first. And obviously that was the handball, and many people are screaming to why it wasn't a red card. Now the thought process behind it is because apparently Harry Kane was never going to get to that ball anyway. What's your kind of thoughts on that kind of stance on it?
Absolutely nonsense. I mean, he's deliberately handballed it. A deliberate handball is a red card. It's near the line. Yes, it may not have been going in or whatever the excuse is, but I am screaming at ITV that's a red card, 100%. I almost wasn't looking at the screen because I knew he was going to produce the red. And when the yellow card came out, I'm just sitting there like, how does this refereeing and the VAR also not step in on this? Because it is absolutely ridiculous. I'm so glad we won the game anyway, because we would be fuming we would be going back to that and saying, why isn't Steve Cook being sent off there? But listen, it didn't matter in the end. But the officiating in this league is still, for me, not up to standard. Like, especially with VAR, they get so many decisions wrong still. It baffles me. And I'm pretty sure in the laws of the game, a deliberate handball in the box is a red card. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe there's some referees in the chat FA qualified, but I'm sorry. It seemed like it should have been a red card.
No, that's the thing. I think that's what many people are thinking. And it's not just from a Tottenham point of view, because obviously we could go back to the other week with the whole Cucurella hair pull, and we'd be in the same stance. If we were on the other foot and we were Chelsea fans, we'd be fuming. And it'd be obviously the same way round. If that happened to Forest, they'd be fuming that it should have been a red card. But I think James is right there in the sense that officiating in this league, it's just a madness. It's just so inconsistent. I think that's the annoying thing.
Yeah, and I can't remember what game I was watching, but I remember them saying that if, like, a lot of the incidents prior to this, I think there was a penalty incident, maybe one you'll remember if, but there was a penalty incident, I think it was in the game before Spurs, was it Newcastle and
Wolves,
yes, and there was a penalty incident and there was a push in the back, and they had said, oh, there was been loads of those incidents given during the game, and this one isn't being given, and it's just, it was just the inconsistency of the whole gallery. Like, they were going with the fact that the referee was letting a lot go, and then he gave, it was the disallowed goal for Wolves. That's exactly what it was. Jimenez scored, and there was a push on Ryan Fraser, and they'd said that the referee let a lot of those pushes go, but because this one resulted in a goal, they brought it back and they discounted the goal. So, so they discounted all the other ones, but because this was a goal, they're changing their minds. So what's the rule here? You know, push fellas in the back, or you not? I just think that's mad. Like, because it's a goal, that's a foul now. What difference does it make whether there's a goal or not? If it's a foul, it's a foul. If it's not, it's not. I just think it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense.
It's like if you get a foul outside the area, or if it's in the box. Oh, it's a foul if it's outside the box, but if it's in the box, it's slightly more towards the defender's favour. No, it's not. If it's a foul, it's a foul. If it's not, it's not. Stop saying it makes a difference where it is on the pitch. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's got to change. It's got to change.
And that's the thing. Like, obviously for us Spurs fans, it was annoying that it wasn't sent off, and it didn't hinder us because of the 3 points. But still, if that went the other way, and then say Forest went up the other end and scored, we could be sitting here having a different story. And it's not just us Spurs fans; it's every fan in the league. As much as I hate Chelsea, you could see that the reason why they got so upset about the Cucurella hair pull. Like, I think it's funny, but obviously if that was on the other foot, you'd be sat there thinking, what's going on? So
but he deserved that. I mean, his hair is ridiculous.
His hair is ridiculous, but I'm trying to have like a level head. It's just
too kind, Hollie. That's the problem.
All right, sod them. Let's move on from that. Away from obviously the controversy, we need to talk about the Harry Kane goal, because it's very unlike him. I'm going to say the pitch was just a bit off for him, because obviously the scuff for the first goal and obviously the penalty save. James, it wasn't really in the corner. I'm not going too hard on him. It's just very unlike him, wasn't it, in the sense that it didn't go in the net when you all think it was.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we're just too spoiled with Harry Kane. We're so used to hitting the side netting or the top corner. His penalties are normally perfect. And listen, this one wasn't in the corner, you're right. But if that went in and the keeper went the other way, we'd have been going, great penalty, Harry Kane. Let's be honest. It wasn't a terrible penalty. It was a good save. The keeper went the right way. It was unfortunate in that sense. But listen, Harry Kane's got, I think, 16 out of 20 Premier League penalties. It's still a pretty good record. He's still got a brace. We won the game. Let's forget about it. He'll score his next one, and probably the 3 or 4 after that. So let's not get on his back for that one.
Yeah, we'll leave him for that one. But obviously, like James alluded to, Darren, he did manage to get the second goal after a disgusting outside the boot cross from Richarlison. What a geezer that man is.
Oh, man, what a player. I know we're going to get onto Richarlison in a while, so I'll just talk about the quality on the ball first. But, outstanding pass. Like, the man has changed the game. Every game he's come on so far, he's just been brilliant. That electric energy he brings, you can almost feel it. Even if you're not actually at the game, you can actually feel the intensity, lift, everything. It just feels like the team are more confident, they're more front-footed, everything. And that pass that came, it was absolute perfection. Like, on a plate. I don't know how they gave Harry Kane so much space in the box, but listen, that's not our problem. But yeah, outstanding pass. And listen, Richarlison, what a man. I think he's slowly becoming one of my favourites already. and he's only played half an hour. So God knows what it'll be like at the end of the season. I'd say it'll all be our favourites. And Everton fans, funnily enough, I met Everton fans recently, and they both said they were both raging that we got Richarlison. And I was kind of like, oh yeah, Richarlison's a good player. I mean, probably overpaid a bit. And they're like, no, you did not overpay one penny. They said, I guarantee you will love him, be one of your favourite players. And I said, well, we'll see. And I completely I completely understand him. Yeah, what a player.
I think just for that cross is worth the 60 mil. Do you not think, James?
No, I think the 30 mil for that cross and the 30 mil for the absolute shithousery keepy ups, and then he got clattered. That's the money's back, really, in that sense. And then we even got profit on the fact that he rent-free Didier Heung-min on Twitter, which was absolutely gorgeous as well. Getting Neymar involved, just get it in my veins every single week, please. It's brilliant.
It is really nice, and I think the thing is as well, it's nice to see a player openly come out and back the club. I mean, there's been so many times when you just sit there as a fan and you take the slack, but he's actually come out and not defended Spurs, but he's openly said what he thought, hasn't he, Dara?
Yeah, 100%, with all them replies and everything. I don't think there's any other Spurs player that would have come out with that. Literally none of them. So yeah, it's nice to see like a bit of fire in the belly. You know, he doesn't mind getting under people's skin, and he actually nearly looks for it. More so than anything, really. Like the fact that he like tagged Carragher and is fully like atting these people. He's not like throwing out random mixed messages. He is directly saying, I'm after you, man. I remember this. I won't be forgetting. So yeah, Carragher said he was delighted that Richarlison didn't snub him like Ronaldo. I reckon he might snub him the next time now after he saw his commentary. Yeah, so he can stuff it up his jumper. Yeah, he's some player, man. I love him. He's so good.
He is. And it's like a Lamela vibe. And I don't want to downgrade Lamela, but he's obviously so much better than Lamela. But it's nice, like you said, to have that fire in a player, even when he comes off from the bench. But obviously, we've had a bit of a question here about, obviously, I don't want to get too much into the Sonny debate because I did it last week. But James, I come to you, like Mark says, in the sense that Richarlison's now breathing down Sonny's neck. Do you think that's hindering Sonny's performance, or do you think he just needs a break, really?
I think the pressure is obviously there. He knows that Richarlison's chomping at the bit to either take Kulusevski's spot, maybe even Son's, or maybe, you know, if Kane does have a few bad games, Kane's. But listen, at the end of the day, he still had competition, just not as higher quality. I think he looks burnt out mentally, maybe a little bit physically as well. And his morale's low, his confidence is low. We've seen it before from Son, and he's bounced back. I thought he would bounce back against Forest, and he was still pretty poor. Probably I gave him the worst rating for Spurs. I don't know if that's too harsh, but in terms of the 11 Spurs players, I thought he was one of our worst. And it's sad to see, of course, but I really think, I know we're probably going to get into it, but I really think Richarlison could start tomorrow, or at least play more of a part, I think.
No, I think you're right. And I think we spoke about it last week in the sense that he has been on this South Korean tour. I know they all were, but he's the face man of the country. So not only is he training, he's going out, all these press stuff. So I don't think it's really rested him, if that makes sense, Dara, in a sense that we kind of forget that he is also doing a lot of PR for Korea. We've seen him on adverts as well. And I think it's just all getting a bit too much for him.
Yeah, like his rise to stardom really has been very much, you know, like slow rise, and then in the last 2 years has really shot up. He's like a global superstar now. Like the fact that Spurs are selling South Korea jerseys, just it tells all about how significant he is to the club. So yeah, he's playing a massive role. Would you even say he has overtaken Kane in the last couple of seasons as kind of the face of Spurs? Joe, the fact that he's won our last 2 or 3 player of the season and the fans player of the season, stuff like that. So yeah, I think possibly there's a bit of pressure there. I wouldn't think Richarlison coming in has affected him, has affected his game. Obviously, you'd be thinking, I want to up my game actually, because this guy, you know, he's a good player. He's going to come in and really show his stuff, and he'll want to, and he has done. So that would probably it may put a bit of pressure on him, but it's internal pressure. It should be good pressure. It shouldn't really affect your game in a negative way. So I don't think he's that weak mentally. I would think like he's been a starter of the club for what, 5 years, maybe, since maybe the year he was signed. Maybe he was in and out of the team a little bit, but he's been a regular start for 5 years. And he's gone through blips like this before. I mean, I don't know why it's coming. Maybe it's just because the start of the season he hasn't scored or hasn't played very well. But he's gone through this kind of phases before. And it was only really the second half of the season where he really, really lit up. Like he was good in the first half of the season, but really after Christmas is when he just took off and he was scoring nearly every game. And possibly like maybe with Kane's penalty miss, sometimes we expect him to be man of the match every game and scoring every game, and that's not necessarily going to be the case. And it's only going to take one goal. And I actually thought, like, again, I talked about it being a game of margins, that Nunez chance, like if that Sonny shot goes in top corner, or maybe the one where he was in the box where he probably should have passed it in the second half and he drove it straight at Henderson. Like, we're talking about a different Sonny altogether, and he's got his goal and he's back and he has to start tomorrow. So it's just fine margins, and it'll come. I 100% back Sonny all the way. But I do think when you have a squad and you have Richarlison right there and he's on fire in the belly, need that in, rough and ready games, I think he's ready to start. And I wouldn't be surprised, like James said, I wouldn't be surprised to see him start tomorrow at all. And I think he deserves it too, to be honest. And I wouldn't do Sonny any harm to, sit out one, come on. Maybe it'll suit him, get a breather, get your game back, get your mojo back. And I think Richarlison is due a start, but 100% back Sonny all the way.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think, like, I don't think we're talking about benching Sonny. I think we're talking about, we've never had the luxury of being able to pull him out to give him a rest and put someone that's equally as good or near as good.
Well, Brian Hill's pretty good.
Well, yeah.
I'm joking.
I know you threw that one in there, but I think it's true. I think we have never had this luxury, and I think that's the thing where some people are getting the hump about us talking about benching him, and other people are actually thinking, yeah, why not? Because we've got all these players at our disposal now. We've never had that before. So it will be interesting. Before we talk about West Ham, I just want to talk about, obviously, Spence, James, because Spence did come on for a little cameo. We didn't see a lot of him, but what I did see was his pace, which is something to be quite excited about.
Yes, yeah, he does look quick, does look sharp. Obviously, Conte came out in an interview in midweek and said he's not, when he's ready for the Premier League, he's ready, and says the step up from Championship to Premier League is tough. But I feel like it's all that thing to do with, it's not a Conte signing, it's a Tottenham signing. We've heard that. And Conte said a number of weird things in his press conferences that you wouldn't want to hear if you were Spence. Like, it's almost suggesting he's not ready. And you know what? Conte knows his stuff. He knows when a player's ready. But what I did see when he came on Spence is it was a bit of a cold mouth scramble, wasn't there? And he got a toe to it. He nearly actually scored. So that would have been absolutely hilarious. But he got a good reception at Nottingham Forest. But I just hope that he gets a run out at least in the cup games, because I don't want to see a player that just sits on the bench, becomes a bit like a Brian Hill, or, even a player that's not getting any starts or not getting any minutes off the bench. Obviously, he's had a few minutes here and there, but it's not much, is it? Obviously, Doherty, you could argue he's not getting any minutes either. Emerson's really in favour at the moment, which is a surprise to everyone. But listen, Spence is still young. He's still got a lot of time, and I don't think we'd ever just panic sell him or, just loan him out season on season. I do think he will be in contention, maybe for the cup games for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And like we said, I think it's all about this squad depth. We've got a lot of it at the moment. But Darren, are you kind of on the same kind of wavelength? Like we said, he did nearly score. And I was actually surprised how quickly he was introduced. Obviously, like James has said, the fact that he's a Tottenham signing, not necessarily a Conte signing. But again, was it because he was playing Forest? I don't know. What was your kind of thoughts?
I know. I was nearly thinking myself that it was Conte saying, he's like, he didn't get maybe the player he wanted at right wing back or something like that. And he knew he'd get a good reception. That might give him a bit of confidence. And in fairness to Conte, I thought it was nice that he came out afterwards and said that, he's been kind of surprised by how quickly he's starting to get to grips with you. He's seeing a fire and an energy. And that's all you can do if you're Jed Spence. I mean, he obviously, Conte probably has a little bit of, I don't know, aggro against him or something because it wasn't his signing. But I think he's starting to come around to him. And once Conte sees players putting in that effort, I mean, he normally rewards them. So all he has to do is keep grafting, keep going. But yeah, I agree with James. It probably isn't the nicest thing to hear if you're a new signing and you've all these rumors about even going out on loan and things like that. It's not nice to hear. But if you're Spence and you're confident in yourself and you believe in what you're doing, then it'll only be a matter of time before Conte sees that too, and rewards him. I would like to see him in a few cup games, 100%, or even coming on for cameo sub appearances. He seemed to even come on right wing. the last game, which was obviously unusual. But look, maybe Conte see something there with him going forward, because obviously he was kind of known for his pace going forward, and you could see that, like, he constantly driving forward, and he was even angry at, I think it was Richarlison or one of the more kind of senior players, and he's saying, "Oh, come on, give me the ball." And, you could see he was hungry. So you need that, especially in cup games when they can be so tight and end to end. You need fellas with a bit of fire again. And yeah, no, I think he's going to surprise a few this season. At least I hope he does, anyway, because he seems a player, and I hate seeing, because I was so hopeful about Brian Hill, to be honest, when I was saying, God, this, we're giving Lamela and 20 million for this guy. He must be the business. And it's just not the business. We got that wrong. So, like, I just really, really hope that Spence is the guy for us. And yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. I know we only saw a tiny cameo, but yeah, I'm liking what I'm hearing and seeing. So long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely more to come, 100%. But obviously, we got it 2-0, 3 points on the board, and we're sitting pretty at the moment. But obviously, next up is West Ham. And James, I don't think it's going to be as easy as Nottingham Forest, because as we all know, this is their cup final, this fixture in the calendar. So how are you kind of feeling about playing West Ham tomorrow?
I'm looking forward to it. I'm always a little bit nervous when Spurs play, like pretty much every game, honestly. That's just how I am. But yeah, it's obviously tough. It's their cup final. It's a night game. Everyone's probably going to have had a few jars before. It's 8 o'clock kickoff, isn't it? Or 7:45. So it's going to be a fierce atmosphere. Let's not get that wrong. But listen, we've had a bit of luck against West Ham recently. Obviously, we beat them 3-1 at home. Away from home, yeah, we had a couple of losses, haven't we? But at the same time, look, we're a changed outfit from last season. Conte's had more time. We've had more signings come in. We've got rid of the deadwood, because we were playing, don't forget, in some of these fixtures, we were playing the likes of Ndombele, Lo Celso. I mean, players that genuinely didn't even want to be at the club. So we've got a team now. We've got an A team that really want to play. They're chomping at the bit, even the 5 subs that want to come on. So I expect to change Tottenham that would normally go to West Ham and maybe not come out of the shell, if that makes sense. And I see us scraping it. I'm not sure if I give my score prediction yet. I'll wait, but I am predicting a Spurs win, and I'm looking forward to it. But that atmosphere, let's be honest, it is going to be fierce there tomorrow night, and hopefully we start well, because that's the important thing. Like we just said, we don't start well, the atmosphere ramps up. West Ham get an early goal, we just know what's coming. But if we can start well and get an early goal and silence that crowd, that is the perfect start for me.
That would be class. I would be well up for that. But obviously, also, we know as well, Dara, that Romero is rumoured to be back for tomorrow. So that makes me a lot happier that I won't have to necessarily see Sanchez, because this is the type of opponent I don't really want to see him. So to have Romero back in the squad is great.
Oh, yeah, absolutely massive, huge. I think having your starting back line against any big side, we'll just about call West Ham a big side. They're lucky we're calling them that. But yeah, look, it's a big game, to be fair. I know it's a bigger game for them than us, but it's still a big game, and it's a game you definitely don't want to be drawing or losing 100%, because you can't be listening to them. So yeah, like I agree with James. I expect us to win. Won't be a highest scoring affair. Probably very, very tight game. A lot of crunching tackles, and that's what you want in a London derby. But yeah, Romero is exactly the kind of guy you want in those games. And I think exactly like we've been saying in the show, the likes of Basuma and Richarlison, I don't know, is that maybe changing the team too much for Conte's liking? He doesn't really like the chopping and changing unless he absolutely has to. But maybe that's the perfect game, especially for Richarlison. I think that's really a good game for him to be playing. And yeah, I'd be worried a little bit about West Ham's midfields, possibly. I know they like to play with kind of a 3 as well. So yeah, I would think we would be changing something in the midfield tomorrow, especially with Bentancur's injury. So yeah, but I'm confident going in tomorrow, I have to say.
I like it. And I think you're right. Obviously, we've spoken about how our midfield have been overrun. I mean, James, do you think this is the combination with Bentancur, like Dara said, out? We will finally see Højbjerg and Basuma. And how do you think that dynamic works? Obviously, we know that Højbjerg for Denmark likes to go forward, but for Spurs, he isn't really in that kind of zone, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I mean, I think Basuma is definitely going to play by the sounds of Bentancur's concussion. But Basuma, like you said, is going to be the one that gets forward, and Højbjerg's going to sit back, soak up the pressure. But also don't forget, Souček and Rice, 2 powerhouses, 2 workhorses. they're going to really, really be trying to dominate that midfield. And I think Basuma, this is the perfect game for him because he's going to track them down. He's going to run his socks off and really cause problems. But also, as we know, Basuma is a threat going forward. He does like an assist. He does like a long shot. So keep an eye on for that as well. But I just think it's the perfect game for Basuma to come in. I really, really do. He's dominated teams like this before. I remember even him going away against Chelsea with Brighton, and he absolutely tore even Jorginho apart. I mean, this guy is a real, real player. I think it's going to be one of the signings of the season. I'm saying it now. I think a lot of people say it as well. But I just genuinely think when he beds into this team, it's going to change Spurs from maybe a team that's putting in average performances and winning to a team that's really going to be putting in great performances, dominating midfield and winning games comfortably. And I think Højbjerg and Basuma, I said it before, is the perfect balance in midfield. I think before I was saying Bentancur and Basuma, but with Bentancur obviously out, I think this is the second best for me. Mm-hmm. And I would honestly back us to dominate Rice and Souček tomorrow.
Oh, I fully hope so. And I think you're right. Like you said, as much as I want it to be Bentancur and Basuma, because obviously we know how talented Bentancur is. And I think Højbjerg is class because he has put some great performances in. I just think Bentancur has that little bit of edge. But again, like you said, it's great to have that combination now. You can mix it up week in, week out. So it'd be very interesting. But Darren, I'm going to come with the big question. I know we've spoken about it a little bit. Is tomorrow the day Richarlison starts? I know you spoke about it just briefly just a minute ago, but will this be the time?
Do you know what? If I'm speaking personally, do I want him to start? I think 100%, but I don't think he will start tomorrow. If I was to predict what Conte will do, just by the sounds of what Conte said after the game about how nice a guy Sonny is, and he'd always wanted him to be part of his football philosophy. Like every coach that's ever worked with Son has absolutely loved him, and that's like because the character he is. And I just think even the way Sonny went off at the last game when he was kind of not throwing a strop, but he was just a bit frustrated, obviously, with how he's performing. I just think he might give him another go. I think personally Richarlison should start, but listen, I don't see training sessions and I don't pick the team. So yeah, I would like Richarlison to start, but I don't think he will. I think he'll stick with Son for this game. But I think Richarlison will get more minutes this game. I think if we're 1-0 up, or even if we're 1-0 down, I think Conte will make changes sooner in the game than, he likes to 65, 70 minutes sometimes. I think he'll make them a lot sooner, maybe even around the 50-minute mark. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I would imagine Sonny starts tomorrow.
No, that's a good shout. I mean, like Bobby said here, we have to remember they've only scored 1 goal in 4 games. So, James, to put it on its head, this could be maybe the perfect time for Sonny to get his confidence back if they're not really going to do much going forward.
Yeah, I think Bobby K's right, and I also think that Son loves a goal against West Ham. 2 goals in his last game against them. There's been memorable moments where he scored a long shot at Wembley as well. We will remember that one. He scores a lot of goals against West Ham. I think it's one of his more favourable opponents. So yes, you could obviously say that, but also building on what Dara said, I wouldn't be surprised if Richarlison may start, but I think Son will start just because of Conte's comments after the game. He says he would let Son marry his daughter. That's how much he loves the guy. It's almost his son. So I think he probably will let Son play again until maybe he takes that statement back. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Richarlison starts, but I think Son probably will get the nod.
100%. And before we move on to obviously the Fulham games, that's at the weekend as well, I want your score predictions for this one because I'm going to do it. So Dara, I'll come with you first. What's your score prediction?
Very boring, but I'm going to go with a 2-1 Spurs win.
I like it. It's not boring if we win. I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. And you, James, what's your score prediction?
Yeah, I just did a preview on my channel. I've gone for the exact same 2-1 scraped win. But also, again, maybe we won't play amazing, but 3 points is all that matters. If we can get 13 points from 15, we would have taken that all day long at the start of the season. So just as long as we win, but I think it won't be like a thrashing. I think it will be a 2-1.
Definitely. And that's what we mean. I think it's going to be not a struggle, but it's going to be stressful. Mind you, watching Tottenham all the time is stressful. But yeah, a win is a win. So I'd take that. And like you said, if we were sitting in this position last season and you told me this was going to be this season, I'd take your hand off. So I'll have it. But obviously, that's the West Ham game. But on the weekend, we obviously have Fulham. So it's a quick turnaround. I know tonight they're playing Brighton, I think. And they haven't been playing too badly, James, have they? Because obviously, we all kind of thought Mitrovic wasn't going to get off to a good start. But he kind of has, especially against the likes, obviously, Liverpool. They played them first game of the season and got a draw. So in that respect, how are you feeling about the Fulham game?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he started well. He got a brace against Liverpool. I think he's already scored as many goals as he did last time he was in the Premier League in that season. I think 3. So listen, Fulham are doing all right. I do rate Marco Silva as a manager. I think he's a great manager. I think Watford were silly to get rid of him so early, but that's their problem. They go through more managers than underwear. And the other thing is obviously... I think Fulham at home it is a good team. It's a hard team, but maybe away from home, they're not quite as good. And obviously, I believe we're at home. So I think maybe that's obviously swings in our advantage in terms of their threats. But yeah, Mitrovic, let's not get it wrong. He is a top striker. His figures spoke for themselves last year. I think he got 41 goals in 42 games. It's absolutely incredible. But obviously, as we know, the Premier League is a lot harder than the Championship. But they have some good players, but also they did lose a few players like Nico Williams. They lost, and Carvalho, who's gone to Liverpool. So they still have decent players, but they also lost to Crawley, by the way, in the Cup in midweek. So are Fulham amazing? I don't think so. Will they stay in the league? I think it's going to be close. So I think they're going to finish sort of 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, one of them. But it's not to be mistaken for the fact that we aren't playing amazing at the moment. But I would expect Tottenham to win this one.
I think these are one of the teams that I've spoken about before that just need to be not brushed aside, but you'd think they'd be taken out straight away, done. So with that kind of in mind, Dara, are you kind of feeling the same as James in that kind of wavelength? It'll be not an easy tie, but one that we should definitely get over the line.
Yeah, 100%. I think you have to be thinking like that, don't you? I think maybe when the fixtures come out at the start of the season, and even now, like you'd always put that down as a win. I don't think any Spurs fan would expect us to even draw there, but they have come out to be kind of stickier than maybe people gave them credit for. I mean, I wasn't giving them much credit at all, to be honest. I thought they'd go straight back down, but yeah, they've put in some good performances against maybe the bigger sides, and they really gave Liverpool a shock. I know Liverpool aren't playing great at the moment either, but neither are we. But we're different is we're getting the wins. Yeah, it's one of those as well, like 2 tough London derbies in a row, but I expect us to win the both, to be honest. And I know it sounds like, you know, me being very having big expectations of Spurs, but yeah, I mean, if we were to win those 2 games, that's absolutely massive. I mean, that is just some going. I mean, what is that? 17 whatever points?
16 from 18,
18, yeah. Like that's insane. That's unbelievable going. So I mean, if we were to do that, and if we're getting our predictions right, then yeah, we'll be laughing. But yeah, they won't be as easy as maybe I thought they were at the start of the season. I was definitely putting that down as a win, but it's a little bit trickier than I thought, and it definitely won't be a rampant win either. I think it'll be close. I think I expect to win by 2 goals maybe.
That's the thing. I think we're all kind of under the illusion that we're not playing great, but the difference is, like you said, against like the likes of Liverpool, we're getting the wins. And I think this time last season, we'd be going into this thinking, oh my God, we're going to lose against Fulham. This is going to be the team that we drop points. And I don't want to tempt fate and it happens. But I'm saying now I'm sitting comfortably and thinking, actually, no, we can go and do these because we've proven we can get a draw at the Bridge, which we've never, ever done in a long, long time. So to think about Fulham, you think, yeah, all right, we can do the business. But I'm going to do your score predictions again. It's like a whistle top store tonight. But James, what's your kind of prediction for Fulham?
Yeah, spot on with what Dara just said there. I completely agree. But going to my score prediction, I'm gonna go for a 3-1 Spurs win. I think it will be comfortable, but also won't be like a 5-6-0 like I'm sure some people in the chat might be predicting, which is fair enough. But I'm gonna go 3-1. I'm gonna say Mitrovic is gonna score for them, and I'm gonna go with Son bouncing back. He's gonna get a brace at the weekend. I'm calling it now. You'll remember that when he scores a brace. And you know, we're going to go with Basuma to get on as well, because he's going to state his team his place in the team. So there you go.
Like it. I like that forward thinking. Dara, you on the same wavelength? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. Do you know what? I think we're very good at soaking up pressure, and I think Fulham will try and put on that pressure, which is why I do think we'll concede in that game as well. I don't think they're quite going to, maybe if we were away from home, they'd come at us like Forest did a bit more, but I don't think they're going to give us the space that Forest did. So that's why I agree with James. I think they're going to score. I was going to say 3-1 myself, but maybe I'll go, nah, I won't. I'll go 3-1. I'll go 3-1 as well. Not copying now, but I was going to say that. Okay.
It's all right. It's a win and
Yeah.
it's 3 goals, so we'll take it. But no, so we've got obviously those 2 fixtures coming up, and then next Monday I'll have a review of the Fulham game where we have hopefully picked up all 6 points from West Ham and Fulham, because that would be lovely jubbly. Before we go, I want to say a big thank you to you guys. So we're going to do my carousel where we say goodbye. So James, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Where can everybody find you doing your thing?
No problem there. Absolute pleasure. I enjoyed this one, actually. It was a good one. Nice to meet Dara as well. But you can find myself and the Spurs Related lads over at Spurs Related, funnily enough, on Instagram, Twitter, but also the one I really wanted to push was YouTube, where we're on 1.3k subs, I think, nearly. So we're getting there. We're starting to pick it up, but we would love anyone that has enjoyed what I've said tonight to go over there. We've got quizzes, previews, match day vlogs even. So, yeah, all sorts going on over there. And, yeah, thanks again, Hollie, for inviting me on.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for coming on. So make sure you guys all go check that out. And Dara, aka Spurs Views, where can everybody find you doing your thing as well, mate?
Yeah, you can find me at Spurs Views _ on Twitter, not on Instagram or any of those quite yet, but maybe someday. So yeah, just the Twitter for the moment. If you want to hear me rabbiting on a bit more about Spurs and complaining a bit more than maybe normal, but yeah, if you want to pop over there, 100% feel free. And guys, just make sure you're 100% subscribing to Hollie if you haven't already. Always brilliant stuff, super stuff coming out every week. So yeah, 100%. And James as well, absolute pleasure to meet you, man. I'll definitely be getting on your stuff.
Yeah, I have to get you on my channel as well, mate. 100%. You talk proper ball. I mean, the fact you've predicted the same scores as me, it must be happening, you know? Nice one.
In sync. But no, thank you guys, and obviously to everybody else in the chat tonight, thank you very much, and to everybody that's listening this on Spotify and all the good jazzy stuff, thank you very much too. Like I said, Hollie Hotspurs Live is back same time on the normal time of Monday at 7 p.m. No Tuesday business next week. So I hope to see you all then, where we've obviously got 6 points to talk about. But until next time, come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs.